Hi guys, Stephanie Ani coming to you from the banks of the Trinity River here near Willow Creek, California. How are you all doing today? Not much of a fun video today. We're going to discuss copyright. And, we get a lot of questions about this. People wondering if what they're doing is infringing on other people's art. So let's discuss this. Number one, I am not a copyright lawyer. Nor do I know if all of my facts are correct or if everything that I have in place is absolutely certain. I don't know that. So you must take your own personal responsibility in using somebody else's image. And if you feel that you are potentially copyright infringing on somebody else's artwork, then you really need to examine whether you personally want to use that image or not. It's an important thing to realize that I am not a lawyer. I take no responsibility if you use somebody else's image and you get busted for copyright. That's not my problem. That's yours. You need to do your research. Okay, number two. Let's talk about a little bit of integrity here. If you're using somebody else's image out of a recent magazine, or if you're using, if you take a photograph that you find in a magazine and you paint a picture of that photograph, that could potentially be copyright infringement. So, be careful of your sources. And, none of us really want to hear that because we want to be able to use the images that we want to use. Fact of the matter is that's not always legal to do. And that stinks. I wouldn't advise doing it. I'm guilty of using images that I like instead of, always using images that are out there and available for free. So, it's a risk that I'm taking by using somebody else's art. Now, I do feel as if I alter it. I do feel as if I'm using it in a different manner than what it was originally intended. So, for somebody to come back and sue me, that's potential. Anytime that you're using somebody else's artwork, somebody else's photography, somebody else's drawing, somebody else's work, anytime you use somebody else's work, you could be sued. There are the exceptions. So I've recently posted this. I just decided to do this at my computers here so that we can discuss this chart. And this is a chart that Kat found for me, actually. And I think it's a really excellent resource. So I know that we want to use the pictures that we want to use. That's a given. But let's go through the chart and see. Okay. Oh, let's see, that gives that too much. All right. I don't really know how to do this, but you guys have the questions, and so this is as clear of a response as I can give you. All right. This is what I've found. This is good, in my opinion. Can I use that picture? Did you create the image yourself? Did you take the picture or create the image? Yes. Was the picture that you created an original idea? Yes. Then you're fine. No. If you created a picture that is so similar to somebody else's that it might be thought of as theirs, you cannot use that picture for anything other than personal use. Pretty self-explanatory. If you're copying something exactly, and, oh, but I took that image, it still doesn't fly. Not. When in doubt, do your research to find out if you copied an idea. Otherwise, don't use the picture for anything other than limited personal use. Okay? So, that's if you took your own image. Can I use that picture? If you didn't create the image yourself, ask yourself the fair use questions. And basically, guys, this is integrity. Would I want somebody out there using my images in their artwork? No, not at all. So here's the fair use. Are you using the image for personal, nonprofit, educational, research, or scholarly purposes? And are you using the image sparingly, only for limited purposes? Yes. Okay, so you're using it for school, you're using it sparingly and for limited purposes. So you say, yeah. Let's see, if you're using an image in an educational research setting for limited nonprofit uses, don't distribute on a brochure, for example, or just to hang on your wall. You're usually safe to use the image without permission. So for your own personal use, you're generally safe. Okay? No. So you're not using it for education or just limited purposes. No. Are you transforming or repurposing the image to create a new purpose or meaning? Yes. Yes, if you completely rework the image so that it isn't recognizable from the original, you can use it. Or if you completely change the meaning, as you might in a parody, you are usually safe to use the image. Okay? So, are you using it in the original context in which it's intended? This is going to be a fuzzy gray area. You know? That's up to you to decide whether you are altering it enough and whether you're using it in a different enough way. All right, so you say no. It says, are you publishing the image in a fact-based context or a publication that benefits the public as a whole, such as a news source where it is important that people see the image? Yes. So if you say yes, it's for research or it's for an article. Well, probably, on a case-by-case basis, an image may be safe to use under fair use laws if the image is published in a non-biased way in order to inform or educate the public for the public's good. So, yes, you are going to publish it. Let's see. Oh, no. Okay. So, it's not going to be for something that's as a news source or something like that. So, no. Would it be considered impossible to obtain permission from the original source? If it is impossible to obtain permission from the original source, yes, you are certain that it is impossible to obtain permission from the person or entity that created the image if the creator died and no one owns the rights, for example. You are usually safe to use the image without permission. Okay. If it is, would it be considered impossible to obtain permission from the original source? No, it's not impossible. Then the question is, will you be using the image for personal or commercial gain? If you answered no to all the fair use questions, the use of your image would most likely be considered for personal or commercial gain. Is the image in the public domain or protected by Creative Commons agreements? Yes, no. Did you purchase the image or obtain permission from the original source? If your image is in the public domain, meaning the original creator released their rights to the image, or you purchased the image and its copyright, take from a stock photo company, you can feel comfortable in using the image whenever you like. If your image is protected under Creative Commons, be sure to check the conditions under which you can use it. You may not be able to modify it or profit from it, for example. If you're uncertain if the image is in public domain or Creative Commons, assume that it's not and avoid using it until you've obtained permission. What if I found the picture on social media or a website? While the laws about distributing images through social media like Facebook, Pinterest, and blogs are still fuzzy, it's generally considered acceptable to redistribute an image that was originally intended to be publicly viewed by the creator. This is why you will typically find the original images reposted on blogs. What the heck happened there? Oh, that was bizarre. It's generally considered acceptable to redistribute an image that was originally intended to be publicly viewed by the creator. This is why you would typically find original images reposted on blogs, news sites, and social media channels, even if the person redistributing the images did not obtain permission to do so. However, much depends on the way in which you intend to use the image. It is unethical to redistribute an image on Facebook, for example, if a person didn't intend for the image to go public in the first place. It is also a form of plagiarism to post an image on your blog or website without citing the original source, and it is considered best practice to link back to the original source as well. Pay attention to the fair use laws and other questions to the left when considering using other images that you find online. Be careful about using others' images for personal gain, commercial gain, and even formal presentations without obtaining permissions first. Copyright. The protection is given to any created image or work from being copied or distributed without permission. All images are immediately given copyright to the creator when the image is created. Okay? You make a piece of art, it's copyrighted automatically. Fair use. The legal right to use copyrighted images as long as the images are used for educational research or personal use, or as long as the image benefits the public good in some way. Creative Commons. Images that are copyrighted but that the creator has put provisions on their use. A Creative Commons license might stipulate, for example, that an image can be used as long as it isn't modified in any way. And public domain. Images that no longer have copyright restrictions either because the creator willingly relinquished the copyright or because the creator is dead and no one owns the copyright. Okay. That's pretty self-explanatory. I have posted this in the group. I'll put a copy of it in on Patreon. It goes over pretty much so everything. So if you have an image, it's your responsibility to be able to back up using that image. Okay, well, it's not in the original intention. I've modified it from its original, I've modified it 10%, or I've modified it this much or that much. Can you take pieces and chunks off of images and get away with it? I don't know. Can you? I would guess that yes, but are you actually copyright infringing? Probably. So, it's your responsibility to have the integrity to decide, or, to take the risk. Again, I'm not a lawyer. So, how to keep your artwork legal. This is from thoughtco.com, copyright for artists. And this guy, this is photos. Can I use that picture? This is a JPEG. Okay. What artists need to know about copyright? Keep your artwork legal. Whenever possible, use only your own source material. Go out and take your own images. All right. Use out of copyright materials. Learn the rules of copyright expiration. We'll go over that in a second. And only use materials that you're absolutely sure are no longer protected. Use public domain images. Websites like Wikimedia Commons and Flickr allow people to share photos, and others may be able to use them under what is known as Creative Commons. However, not every photo on these sites grant full permission for reproductions, and some have restrictions. It's very important that you understand how Creative Commons works, which we just went over that, and how you read the fine print on any individual image or artwork that you want to use. Obtain permission to use the image. Write to the publisher, magazine, or website and simply ask permission. The worst they can do is say no, but sometimes they'll be okay with it in a particular situation. Others may grant permission for a small fee or under conditions such as citing your source. Keep track of your sources. Know the laws in your state and country. And then also they discuss here in this particular article on thoughtco.com protecting your own artwork. As soon as your artwork leaves your hands, you risk other people using it inappropriately. This applies just as much to sharing photos on the internet as it does to sell physical painting that can then be copied. It's also possible that somebody else may profit from your work without you knowing it. This is a harsh reality for artists, especially when you want to market your work online. While it is never guaranteed, there are some things that you can do to protect your art. Copyright legally belongs to the artist from the moment of creation. You don't need to mail yourself copies. That's another myth and a complete waste of time because it cannot be used as evidence in court. Should someone infringe on your copyright, you cannot sue the United States. Check local laws for other countries. Unless you have registered with the Copyright Office of the Library of Congress. Oh, you cannot sue in the United States. Should someone infringe on your copyright, you cannot sue in the United States unless you've registered with the Copyright Office of the Library of Congress. It's a small fee, but if you're concerned about copyright, it may be worth it. That's interesting. Registered with the Copyright Office. So you can't sue somebody unless you register with the Copyright Office. Wow. You may choose to sell copyright along with your artwork, to sell it with limitations or retain it entirely. It's important that you make your intentions clear to buyers and that this is done in writing. So if somebody buys my painting and then they think that they own the copyright to it, they do not. They own the painting, right? They do not have the rights to just go and take images of that and then use that, put it on a calendar, put it on a coffee cup, and redistribute that because they bought the painting. Absolutely not. I own the rights to that image. They bought the painting. They did not they still don't have the right to the image. Although that could probably be disputed. That would be interesting to find out, actually, if, because I had somebody kind of pull kind of a funky one on me. I was doing a commission piece, commission ad for them, and I did numerous examples, and then they took all of the examples, and then they're like, well, I'm paying you to do this. These are mine. No, not really. Not really. Let's see. You may choose to sell copyright. You may choose to sell copyright along with your artwork, to sell it with limitations, or to retain it entirely. Okay. It's important that you make your intentions clear to buyers and that this is done in writing. So that's a really good thing to know. I think he just had a dream, or maybe he moved. I think it was a dreaming. He wore himself out horribly, horribly. Not yesterday, but the day before. He's kind of paying for it. Okay. Where are we at here? You may choose to sell copyright along with your artwork, to sell it with limitations, or to retain it entirely. It is important that you make your intentions clear to buyers and that this is done in writing. So this would be a worthwhile thing for me to do, absolutely, is to, have a copyright intention notice, because I don't want people using my artwork and think they have free access to it now. It's a good thing. Consider writing a copyright notice on the back of your artwork. Include the copyright symbol beside your signature. When publishing images on the internet, there are several methods to prevent misuse of your work. Add a copyright symbol and written notice on the web page. Post images as small and as low resolution as possible. I need to work on this myself. Add a copyright notice watermark across the image, which would be good for me to do too. Embed the image file with a copyright notice using metadata. Use a web service to track if and where your images are being posted. That would be interesting. Cut larger images into sections and join them in a table. That's an interesting thought. That way people just can't copy it. Use scripting in the website code to disable the right click that makes copying and saving images easy. None of these steps will stop people from using your images. This is a fact of life for visual artists in the modern era where everything is done online. Every artist must make their own decisions as to how far they want to go in protecting their images and what to do when one is misused. Disclaimer here. The author is neither a lawyer nor a copyright expert. This article is for general information only and not intended to be any form of legal advice. To answer specific legal questions, consult your legal professional. And I concur. Okay? So, there is one more thing here that we want to look at real fast. When copyright becomes public domain. So, I've been sharing, as I've seen articles come up from, I think, modernmet.com or something like that. I'm sharing a lot of images that are becoming public domain. And museums and schools are making their older publications available for public use. In my mind, that sounds like it's available for public use. I'm not an expert. You decide how you want to use it. Okay? If, I don't know. If they say that it's public domain, it's public domain. If you question that, then you need to write to the museum or write to the school or write to wherever you're getting those images from that they say are public domain and say, hey, can I use this? Okay? That's your responsibility as an artist. That is not my responsibility to tell you whether it's correct or not. Okay? So, you all have to take personal responsibility in using copyright. So, this is again from thoughtco.com, and it's talking about copyright expiration. when copyright protection becomes public domain. And this is what we're dealing with quite a bit. And this is why I prefer to use vintage images instead of current images out of magazines. I don't really use a lot of current images. I do some. I feel like I change them from their original intent. I'm not going to turn around and mass produce, somebody else's work. And, where's the gray line? There's a gray line. Copyright is a gray line. And we're mixed media artists, so we want to be able to use what we want to use. Let's go over this real quick. Works published prior to 1923. Okay. Anything published before 1923 is now in public domain and can be used and distributed freely. Pretty clear cut. Works published between 1923 and 1963. If the work in question is published with a copyright notice or copyright dates by author-owner, it is protected for 28 years and could be renewed again for an additional 67 years for a total of 95 years. This is in the United States. For example, a work copyrighted in 1923 will be in the public domain in 2019. If the work was published without a notice or if the copyright has expired, it is now in the public domain. And now, remember, this is works published, okay? It's not talking about unpublished works, which I'm sure is a whole nother ball of wax. This is why I say I'm not a copyright lawyer, okay? Works published between 64 and 77. When published with notice, this copyright protected for 28 years for the first term with an automatic extension of 67 years for the second term for a total of 95 years. It has copyright on it. So if you find an image in a magazine that was published in 1976 and you're painting the exact image, that's probably not legal and you could have it come back at you. Now, if you went and took your photo of almost the exact same place, if you have the original artwork, then that would be really hard for them to fight. Make sense? Works created before 1978 but not published. Copyright notice is irrelevant. Copyright protection lasts for the life of the author, plus 70 years or until the end of 2002. Whichever is latter. So, works created before 1978. So, the life of the author plus 70 years or the end of 2002, whichever is latter. So, if it's not covered by one, it's covered by the other. Works created in 1978 or after. If the work is fixed in a tangible medium of expression. So, fixed in a tangible medium of expression. An actual piece. An actual thing, right? Then copyright notice is irrelevant. Copyright protection lasts for the life of the author plus 70 years and is based on the longest living author if the work was jointly created. If a work is corporate authorship done for hire or anonymous, it is protected from 95 years from the publication or 120 years from the creation, whichever is shorter. So, any image created before 1923 is copyright free. Unless somebody specifically owns the copyright to it. So, I think the main thing that we need to remember as artists is if we look at an image that somebody else has created and you're like, that's my artwork. Somebody's using my art. And whether it's they have to prove that you're infringing. You have to be honorable too. So it's hard. It's, again, I'm not an expert. I do not claim to be an expert. I take no legal responsibility if you use an image. My information can be wrong. I'm reading you direct sources. Do your own research. That's all I can say. If somebody contacts you and say, hey, you used my image, then that's your bad. You know, apologize and say, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Or fight for your cause, which is, I'm not using it in the original intention in which it was, and I've altered it, XYZ. It will be up to you to prove your point, and it will be up to them to prove their point. The bottom line is, none of us want to go to court. None of us want to be sued for copyright infringement. None of us want to have our artwork reproduced without our permission. None of us, want to. I mean, I want to use the images that I want to use. Of course I do. Do I have the right to do that? That's fuzzy. Works without a copyright, they can be distributed. We found out on that one article. We can distribute. So that's actually good that I figured that out. It's a gray area. It's not up to me to tell you. You have to do your own research. You have to use your own conscience. Okay? I guess there's really not much more that we can talk about with it. I'm sure actually there's people that are copyright lawyers who study copyright for years and years and years and years. This is just briefly going over a few articles that I found. So when you're seeing me share things like from the UCLA book collection here, I copyrighted that one. Or I bookmarked that one from one of the things that I shared for you. My internet service is slow here, just a second. So I think, personally, if they're saying that it is public domain, it's public domain, and you're able to use it. I probably wouldn't suggest, well, so if we look at this particular website here, if you can get in there, this is the UCLA Children's Book Collection, and, I think you would be pretty safe to use this, Sleeping Beauty in the Woods. I think you'd be pretty safe to use this image, because it's copyright free. So I think you could get away with it. See, look at that one. I don't know if you can see that. No, I can't really see it very well. This guy. That's a great image. I probably need to be more diligent in using copyright-free artwork myself. Okay, but I am altering them. I am changing it from the original intent. I did read about a law case regarding copyright, where a guy had taken a photograph of an Aboriginal man. He published that picture. An artist came along and he changed the picture by giving the guy an electric guitar, a pair of sunglasses, and something else. He changed it minimally. The artist actually won, not the original photographer. To me, it's like, that image really wasn't changed that much. So, be honorable. Just try to think like the artists themselves, guys. Let's would I want somebody to use this piece of art in this manner? It's fuzzy. It's fuzzy. And that is up to you to figure it out. Not up to me to figure out whether something you're doing is legal or not. Okay? So, I don't know if I really need to talk about copyright too much more after this. It is up to you guys to use your own conscience about things, and do your own research. I'm not an expert. This is what I found. hopefully this clears some things up for you. Again, I did that chart that has been shared in the Messy Hands Band of Artists group, and make a copy of that one. It's probably copyright infringement to make a copy of it, but it's a good one to keep in mind. It gives you all the ins and outs. It's very clear cut, and you know, ask yourself the hard questions. And even though you really want to use that image, you are personally taking the risk by using it. And that's all there is to it. You know, I would never want to mass produce somebody else's image, somebody else's artwork. So let me know if you have any comments or questions. You know, there's you know, we can go to the government websites and look up copyright. I'm sure they'll be much more technical. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And again, you know, let's just try to honor the other artists that are around us and have the integrity not to steal their artwork and call it our own. Guess that's my bottom line. Okay, guys, I'm going to go make some art. By golly, I actually need to get the video put together. I've got all the images together, but now I need to do a little bit work on structure before I put it into the book. And then I also have an extra added crazy thing I want to add to this layout before it's complete. So, all right, guys. Love you bunches. And let me know your thoughts. And let me know what you think. And we will chat soon. If anybody knows, if anything that I've said is incorrect, feel free to put it in the comments. You know, I'm just reading to you directly what I've found off of the internet. Maybe they're wrong. I don't know. Okay. Love yous. Bye. Mwah. We'll see you soon.